Welcome back to the Mustang Blueprint. I'm Levi Van Coolen.
I'm Paige Klophockey.
And we're here with team member John O'Brien. So, John, tell us a little bit about yourself and where you're from.
So I'll start off with I had an interesting journey growing up. I moved two schools while I was at a young age. I started out in Voyager Elementary School from kindergarten through third grade. I did have a very severe concussion in first grade, which I'll talk about a little bit. And then after third grade, I moved schools to Miltona Elementary School, and then I moved again in sixth grade to Parker's, and that's where I graduated from. And I'm kind of my own person. I'm kind of like all about myself. I do things on my own. I have a pretty good supportive family that will support me, and I am very happy where I'm at now here at SMSU. I'm very, very happy, even though it took me up until the last week of school before I graduated to choose where I wanted to go to. And I'm from a place, Alexandria. It's like the size of Marshall, but I ended up graduating from Parker's Prairie, which is the size of a town of the size of 1,000 people. And that was a very nice community, and they gave a lot of stuff. Everybody there was nice, and they gave a bunch of stuff to the school and donated money, and was really nice.
That's so awesome. So you kind of talked a little bit in there about your family and how much they mean to you. So we were talking earlier today, and you have a really fun story with your family, specifically during COVID and all that.
Yes.
Can you touch on that a little bit?
So during COVID, we were all locked up, but one of the big things during COVID that we learned as a family was we have other hobbies that we could do. And my dad and his best friend Fred, they were doing this thing called something with history and interesting history facts that they would do weekly. And then eventually they were talking together, and they're like, hey, maybe we should write a book or two. And what happened was they came up with this idea called Fred Time Stories, where Fred talks about the stories of his life. And they decided to have not one book, but two books released. And it's basically my dad would go over weekly and talk to his friend about his life and what it's like to live in rural Minnesota. And they really took off with that and liked the idea. And both of these books are on Amazon if you want to go buy them. They're just called Fred Time Stories 1 and 2. And I brought them both with me because they're pretty interesting. There's some stories about Parker's being a dark community. Even though it's a small community, everything that could happen at a big community happened in a small community like Parker's.
And are those the books sitting next to you right now?
Yeah, those are the two books that are sitting next to me right now. My dad helped him write these books and release these books, and then he also wrote another book about the Kensington Runestone. So my dad is a big history nerd, and he was able to write these two books and another book, and he enjoyed doing that coming out of COVID because as a teacher, it was tough for him to teach. He said it was terrible that we had to be locked up, especially in rural Minnesota. He didn't like the idea of trying to teach online class, and he decided, I need to find something else to keep me occupied, and he was able to do that by writing these books.
That's awesome.
That's so cool. My dad hasn't done anything that cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess you talked a little bit about you chose SMSU during your last week of your senior year. What kind of was your process? Did you have a few schools in mind that you wanted to go to, or were you more so just on the fence a little bit about where you wanted to go?
Well, what happened was I had a few schools that I wanted to go to, and both my mom and my dad sat me down and went through programs and money and a few other key factors, and I chose SMSU because of the money and the opportunity we had. And I remember the last week of school, before our senior skip week, I went to this one college in the city's called Northwestern, and like they talked to me about like faith stuff and like how they take a day off of classes, and I'm like, I don't want to do that where I take a day off from classes just to talk about God. I want to worry about, hey, show up, do classes every day, and do your homework.
So like you're a broadcasting digital media major, right? Just like myself and Levi.
Yep.
Why did you choose that? Like was that also part of that kind of decision with your family?
It was like growing up, I would always get up and watch the local channels and watch football during my fall Saturdays. Like that was one of my things I would like to do, and I would wake up every Saturday and watch the games and listen to specific broadcasters that I enjoyed listening to. And I was really a big fan of it when Joe Burrow was at LSU, like, and I like that idea of, hey, I like how these broadcasters do these games, and I like to watch sports. So I was kind of that sports nerd in my high school. Like, you ask any of my friends how much I knew about sports, it was like he knows a ridiculous amount about sports.
I guess like to go off that, saying like you knew a lot about sports. Is there a specific area or field that you want to work in within sports? Is there like NFL, MLB, NBA? Is there like a specific area you want to, or more so just take what you can get?
I think it's more of the college side, because I tend to like the college football and college basketball more, because that's what I like enjoying watching a lot more during the playoffs. Like now college football has this 12-team playoff that it lasts from when we go on winter break to almost the end of January. And then I also like college basketball because I get into March Madness when it's happening from March until early April, because me and my friends get a bracket pool together and we compete against each other with our bracket pool, and it's very fun to do that.
That's awesome. That's really cool. So like being in the broadcasting and digital media, did you know anything about that when you first came into SMSU, or were there like certain classes that you took that you're like, this like kind of like solidified it for me, kind of like this is what I want to do?
Well, I think it was when I came on my college visit, they kind of talked about it, and I kind of liked the idea of, hey, you have opportunity here to do broadcast and digital media stuff. Like I remember going to the U of M and spending a whole day there going through their campus, and they didn't really have the specific type of field that SMSU had. And it was the same thing with MSU Moorhead when I went on my college visit as well. They kind of said, oh, you need to start here first before you get more opportunity. I think it was just the idea of having an opportunity right away to get in broadcast and digital media here at SMSU.
And then I guess like kind of going off that, you talked about like you want to be a college broadcaster. Is within that, is it like you want to stick with like basketball or football, or just all around do a little bit of everything?
Well, I watch college basketball and college football, and it tends to seem like the broadcasters for that, they do both college football and college basketball. Like during the fall, they'll do football, and then once the fall season is over, they'll do college basketball games, and that is very fun to watch. Like, hey, I know this broadcaster from doing such and such game, and I know this broadcaster is going to do basketball now because he talked about it in his last college football game that he did for the season. I believe that I kind of want to be that way, but I also look at it as if I don't get that specific area, I could also work in a different field, and I would be fine with whatever, because I'm kind of a guy who's like who does like a schedule, but who also could roll with the flow.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So is there any, like, I know you talk about like the announcers and all that stuff. Are there any announcers that you've heard during these college games that you're like, that's who I want to be like, or anyone that inspires you in it?
It really depends on what day I'm watching, but I would say Kirk Herbstreit. I like him a lot. He's able to break down the game a lot and be specific about what's going on during the game. Like I like him. I also like Jesse Palmer as well. He does a good job of like trying to analyze during the game as well. And then I also probably one of my favorite play-by-play guys is Chris Fowler, because like he's able to talk about the game and be able to say what is going on, and he kind of makes the broadcast of the game feel hype. Like he hypes it up, and like I enjoyed watching Alabama Auburn during break, and it was fun because Alabama got up by 17 and Auburn came storming back, and like even Chris Fowler was getting hyped while Auburn was making these big pass plays, and it was fun to listen to that.
Yeah. So back in high school, talking with you earlier, you said you played some baseball, and you mentioned playing at Target Field. How were like the experience of that? How did that make you feel? Like, was it one thing where you were like, this like set you on the road to where you are today, or was it more of like help build upon that?
It was actually earlier when I played football my junior and senior year, despite having a couple concussions and one being very severe. Like, I remember my first concussion, like I was pretty out of it, and my parents have told me multiple times, John, this is what happened during your first concussion. Like, they've had to tell me, oh, you were unconscious, you couldn't, in like the ambulance, they wouldn't allow for me to have the sirens on because I was screaming violently. And then another thing they said is like, it took me a while to wake up, and I was stirring around while they brought in food. And like my dad was out in DC when all of this happened, and it was like, oh my gosh, how could he be playing football in his junior and senior year? But it was like, football has changed a lot over the years. Like, there's not as much hitting in it, and like my grade was responsible for bringing Parker's Prairie back to section championships and to the state tournaments. Like, I got the chance to play at where NDSU plays, like for our section championship. That's where our game was at, and like I remember like us doing kneel downs in the section championship in the Fargo Dome, and I got to be out there and be with my friends, and it really helped the football program now to be where they're at now, because like last year they were able to make it to the state semifinals, and this year they made it back to the section championship. And then my senior year, when we went to play at Target Field, it was a pretty weird week, because what happened was we were supposed to play it on the Monday after the state semis, but since Target Field is a professional stadium and there was some rain and it was raining, it wasn't raining too bad when we left our hotel room that day. I'm like, we could have played this game, but the grounds crew didn't want high school baseball players ripping up the field. So we had to go back home, and we ended up driving back down on Friday. I think we played the Saturday before Father's Day, and it was a fun experience because we got up, went to the stadium, and we got there. Like, they have baseballs for every state championship game they have there, and like you get to sign your name on it. So like I have a baseball sitting at like the Baseball Hall of Fame somewhere in the cities, and it has my name on there and who we played. We ended up playing Springfield, and I remember like there was no cleats allowed on the baseball field until after the anthem. Like, they were so strict about it. Like, I remember like being out in the outfield for infield outfield, and just looking around the stadium, seeing, oh, this is actually how big a major league stadium is. And once our IO was done, they allowed us to go out into the bullpen, and like the phones were actually working. So like I remember being in the bullpen, and I threw a pitch in the target field bullpen, and they called us up, and they're like, oh, it's time to get out of there, bring our starter down there so he can get ready for the game. And it was just such a fun experience. Like my dad's oldest brother came to the game, and some of his family, like his oldest son came, and like I remember after the game, even though we lost the game, like how much fun it was to take photos with family at Target Field after a state championship game. It was such a fun experience, and like that was like my biggest achievement, was getting state runner-up at a major league ball field as my last thing in high school before I came here. And last year here at SMSU, I was a part of the speech team, and I made it to nationals. We had a fun time there. So like that's one of my highest achievements, was getting state runner-up in baseball.
That's awesome.
So cool.
Yeah. So lots of perseverance that you've gone through in your life. You've had a lot of chances to prove yourself and kind of show everybody what you can do.
Yeah, exactly. Like from a small town, everybody knows everybody, and everybody is friends with each other. So like I want to, yes, I do remember like how hard it was for us to leave Voyage Elementary School when I was going into 4th grade. But I think because my dad taught at Parker's and our paths eventually led to Parker's, like I think I would have never traded it for anything else. Like Parker's Prairie is more of my hometown than actually living where I live on the very western side of Alec. Like I love Parker's Prairie, and everybody's nice there, and I just love the town of Parker's Prairie because that's where a lot of my achievements for my life have happened so far.
I love that. We might have to take a road trip down to Parker's Prairie.
Yeah.
Goodness.
Yeah.
Well, do you have any final words to say, like anything that you want like SMSU students to like know when they like look at like how far people have come?
I would just say never give up never give up on about yourself, and keep pushing, and everything's going to work out for you eventually.
That's awesome.
That's so cool. Perfect.
Yeah. Well, thank you for watching the Mustang Blueprint, and we'll see you on the next one.
Speaking from my perspective, because when I tell my friends back home in Sri Lanka, hey, I'm the captain of rugby, they're like, you're athletic? I'm like, yeah, that's what I'm saying too. So I would tell everyone like, hey, just give it a shot,